Hey guys, I'm JC. Welcome back to the J&E Eclectics studio. That's right, the brand new studio. It's almost finished. In this video, I'm gonna talk to you about the 5 things I wish I knew before spending $22,000 on an embroidery machine. Stay tuned. I want to start out with number 1, digitizing, or how you get your artwork ready for stitching. A lot of people out there will outsource that work. We outsource only if we have too much orders on our hands to do the artwork ourselves. But we're going to break that down. So the first thing would be just the resources for learning how to digitize. When we were looking at getting into embroidery, I didn't consider the steep learning curve to digitizing artwork yourself. So thankfully though, we're in the middle of quarantine. We got to spend 3 months, Esley and I, actually breaking down all of our graphics designing through Adobe Illustrator, but then through different digitizing software. So I wish I had known when I bought my machine it was going to come with a different digitizing software. Instead, I got a little excited up front and bought a different digitizing software. We started training ourselves with that software. Then the machine came in and it came with a free version of the program that company uses. So Ricoma comes with the Chroma digitizing software, and they have different levels of advancement for their software. Unfortunately for us, we spent 3 months preparing and using Hatch, a different software for digitizing. So I wish I had known ahead of time how cheap it actually is to outsource. Now there are some caveats with outsourcing. You want to make sure you're going through a trusted vendor because that artwork is going straight to your customers. And at J&E Eclectics, we refuse to put anything out if we don't personally know that the quality is going to meet the expectation. So if that ever happens, if something missed or we went with outsourcing, you have little control over that because you didn't put those files together yourself. That leads us to the last piece of digitizing and something I wish I had known a little bit more about before we got started, which is charging for setup fees. If a customer comes to you with their design or their logo and it's ready to print on a shirt, that doesn't mean that it's ready to be embroidered on a hat or a jacket. Getting something ready, getting artwork for digitizing is a complete different setup. Some software will let you auto digitize, meaning you can upload that image or that logo and then immediately run a click, one click in the software and it'll turn it into stitches. That's great for sending your customer or your client what that artwork looks like stitched. However, you actually have to go embroider it on something to see how it's going to come out. The same thing is true with outsourcing that artwork. If you reach out to another digitizer, for example, on Instagram, and they charge you $15 or whatever it might be to get that artwork digitized, you can't just turn around and tell the customer they're good to go. You've got to then take a garment that you're planning to sell to the customer and run that artwork through it, just to make sure the stitching comes out exactly right, because you may need to turn around and get it revised. So there are pros and cons to digitizing. For us, if we have too many shirt orders or hat orders, I may outsource and ask a digitizer to do the artwork for us. However, if it's a time constraint and the customer says, hey JC, can you get this done for me today? I'm gonna do the digitizing myself. I don't have time to wait for another artist to keep giving me revision 1, revision 2, revision 3. So you've got to also figure out who your customer base is and what's going to work best for you case by case. So to break down that first step, or the first thing I wish I had known more to help you guys out, definitely learn how to digitize. If you don't know how to digitize today, that's fine. Set aside part of each day to just start learning it little by little. Start small. Start with a simple logo, like a Mickey Mouse hat, right? Everyone knows that simple logo design, right? So go through and figure out if you can create the exact curves you need, if you can create the exact look you want. Don't worry about it being perfect just yet, and you can still outsource in the meantime. However, you don't want to be relying completely on outsourcing that artwork, because you will end up turning away customers, and that's money out of the door, right? If a customer comes to you and says, hey, can I get this done today? And you don't know how to digitize, you've got to have a great relationship with whoever you're outsourcing with to get a quick turnaround. And you may end up spending too much money for it to even be worth it. So I recommend take the time to learn how to digitize on your own so you're not completely dependent on outsourcing. Which leads me to the second thing I wish I knew before getting into embroidery, and that's the accessories. So something you guys may have heard if you're familiar with our channel, I say it a lot, it's analysis paralysis. And basically what that means is once your brain has so many choices that you don't know what to decide, it actually slows you down or inhibits you from making a good decision because you don't know where to start. So I started looking at accessories after we got our Ricoma machine. I didn't realize how many different things we were going to be capable of doing. One thing I probably should have done first was hit up some message boards or reached out to people who already had the machine and asked them, what are the typical go-to accessories that you need day to day? Now for us, we waited on getting certain accessories. We immediately knew we want to be able to embroider hats, so we focused on getting hat hoops. Now, a couple months into having our machine, someone asked us if we could do the headrests in their car. Yeah, there's a side tip here. We said, yeah, because you always want to say yes. Doesn't matter what it is. If you don't know how to do it yet, figure it out. That's when timelines come into play, but say yes. So, digging into accessories, once we got away from knowing we were for sure doing hats, what else could we get into? We started looking at our processes and what was taking the longest amount of time, and that was hooping. For us, those mechanical hoops, this little motion, if you work with an embroidery machine, you know exactly what this is. You're turning that tiny little knob to tighten or loosen a hoop to put it over whatever material you're working with. For us, that was the biggest and most time-consuming issue. Plus, if you know what hoop burn is, it's not pretty. What we ended up doing was investing in the Mighty Hoop. So we invested in the Mighty Hoop because it takes away that trouble. Immediately, no hoop burn, but also it makes it super simple to do things like a left chest logo. You can line it up for different size garments, whether it's for a youth or an adult, and you're gonna get it perfect every time, especially for bulk orders. Now, this accessory did run us a little over $500, but let me explain why that's not important. That $500 has immediately come back to our shop because of how many orders we can get done in the same amount of time. No longer are we spending 3 to 5 minutes per garment making sure we hoop it correctly, and we're not throwing garments in the waste bin or our test pile because of hoop burn. So those magnetic hoops are amazing for dealing with more than just that one problem of hoop burn. They also streamline our production and allow us to get more orders done faster, which is more money in our pocket. So the reason we went with the Mighty Hoop is one, to get away with hoop burn. If you don't know what hoop burn is, you've got these different sized hoops to put over a t-shirt or a canvas bag or whatever you're making, and the pressure of those two hoops sliding together, it rubs that fabric. You hear that friction? It rubs that fabric. When you take the hoop off, you can see like a stretch or a burn in the shape of the hoop around whatever you were working on. Nobody wants that, and your customers aren't going to pay for a messed up product. So think of hoop burn like when you get a deodorant stain on your shirt. So Mighty Hoop immediately does away with hoop burn because of the magnetic hoops that it comes with. And then second, think about how long it takes to line up perfectly every time you want to do something as simple as a left chest logo. Now you could put a youth size shirt, an adult size shirt, it doesn't matter, 1X, 2X, 3X, and you're gonna get it correct every single time with the Mighty Hoop. So the money that you spend, it's more than worth it for what time you get back in your shop, because time is money. All right, leads us into the third thing I wish I knew about, the different supplies and their costs. So if you embroider, or you know a friend who does, take a look at their stash of supplies. We're talking backing and thread and bobbin and so many different things. I had no idea that the supplies were in a world of their own. For example, some things that we do on hats, we need water-soluble backing, meaning this backing will go on, hold whatever work you're doing in place, and then you run some water over it, and like magic, it disappears. I was using that for months before I realized that there was a heat away backing, meaning I use the same type of backing to hold things in place while we do the work. Then if you give it a quick heat press, vanishes away just like magic without having to actually wet the garment. So you can imagine embroidering a hat, for example, and then running it under the sink real quick to get the water soluble stuff to wash away. Probably a bad example. Not all backing is created equal. So there's tearaway backing, cutaway backing, mesh backing. They all have a purpose depending on what type of work you're doing. So if you think, I'm just gonna get an embroidery machine and I'll be able to do everything right away, you're only half right. Yes, kind of the world is gonna be open to you from an embroidery standpoint, but you've gotta then dig into the information. You've gotta educate yourself. What backing works for what type of job you're doing. If you wanna know more about that, subscribe to this channel and check out some of our other videos. Which leads me to the fourth thing that I wish I knew: buy in bulk. You would think that's common sense, especially if you've seen some of my other videos where I talk about buying custom poly bags in quantities of 4,000 or stickers 5,000 at a time. For some reason, when it came to embroidery and working with Ricoma, I didn't think I needed to buy all my supplies in bulk. I was underestimating how many tests I was gonna run. Now, I buy even throwaway hats in bulk just to test them out before I actually put the finished product on a customer's hat. So, buy your supplies in bulk. Don't worry about saving money on supplies. That's not the place to save money. You want to be able to test, test, test. So if you don't even have throwaway hats, you're going to be going through tons of backing, running those designs on just throwaway backing, just to see that you've got the stitch right or the tension for your stitches correct. Then you'll be putting on the actual finished product. So one thing I found out a little bit too late was, if I'm going to be running all these tests and I didn't buy in bulk, I'm going to run out of those supplies. And it happened to us. In the middle of a 48 hat order, I only had 2 tester hats that I picked up at a local flea market just because I knew they'd be great for testing. When we ran out of those 2 tester hats, I was using tearaway backing. 2 sheets at a time. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I only had a packet of 100. So think about that. I just said it was a 48 hat order. That doesn't leave margin for error. But I didn't do the math. I started running through. I maybe used about 20 or so sheets of that backing on just testing before we finally got the design how I wanted it. And to me, 20 sheets of backing was way better as a test than using actual hats, high quality hats that we were gonna sell to the customer. So I got rid of the backing. Then when we started actually embroidering on the hats, we had the backing on the hats as well. But guess what? By the time I got to about the 30th hat, I ran out of backing. So then I had to place an order and wait 2 days for shipping. May not seem like a big deal, 2 days, but to us, that's huge because we value the turnaround time on our products to our customers. We enjoy being able to say you could pick it up in as quick as an hour or maybe as late as tomorrow, depending on what the order is. So for this customer, thankfully, they had a week before they actually needed it. So we had time, but I didn't like that. And that's a scenario that could have bit us in the butt further down the road. So buy in bulk and don't worry about saving money on your supplies. So another thing that I knew a little bit about, but I wish I would have known more about, and more importantly, I want to make sure you guys are aware of, and that's community. There are a lot of other embroiderers out there. A lot of people in this realm of custom apparel and custom embroidery that have no problem answering questions to someone thinking about getting into this industry. We're included. We get phone calls all the time. We'll talk 30, 40 minutes sometimes with people who just saw a YouTube video to give them some tips and some feedback. All right, guys, thank you for making it this far in the video. But before I give you that 5th and final tip, I want to remind you all about the giveaway we're doing through our partnership with Reyes the Entrepreneur for that Cameo vinyl cutter. So check out the video that's popping up on the screen right now and the link below to see how you can win. And did I mention it's free, like completely free? You don't even have to pay for shipping. Check out how you can win. 5th tip for you. Think about the company that you're going to do business with. Look at how they're operating, and most importantly, for a knowledge standpoint, look at the content that they're putting out. We've had a customer who's ordered from us before and then asked us, hey, just out of curiosity, why did you go with Ricoma over something like Chijima or Melco or some other company? And honestly, it came down to, we knew we'd have to teach ourselves a lot of the information, but Ricoma puts out a ton of content. So they've got their Instagram, which is constantly posting all throughout the day. They've got Facebook groups. They've got the Embroidery Hub, where if you don't know how to embroider something, they've probably already made 1 or more videos on how to get that done. tons of content for someone who's just getting started with their machine. And to us, that was invaluable. A company that doesn't stop working for you after they get your money. So if you want to know why we chose Ricoma, that's part of it. They put out a product that they believe in, but they also are working on helping build a community of support. It does seem like this is a very competitive industry, and to some people it is. To some people, they can only make themselves look better by putting down someone else's work, or they'll hold that knowledge to themselves out of fear of competition. Ricoma is not that company. They might get some money from selling you a machine, but they get even more value from teaching you how to use that machine successfully. Because then what happens? You become a marketer for that company. Exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm not getting paid for this review. I'm not getting paid for this information in any way at all, but I believe in what I'm saying because I've seen it firsthand. And that's really the goal there. They put out that content to help you, but also they know word of mouth is still the best form of marketing today. So for that 5th tip, think about the business you're going to be working with and use that to help you make the decision on what piece of equipment you're going to get. Don't think of just the quality of the machine you're getting. Think of all of those accessories, right? Or that support system that's going to be there, because in the long run, it's going to make a difference. All right, guys, thank you so much for staying tuned in this video. Make sure you're liking and commenting below. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. And if you really enjoyed the 5 tips I gave you, the things I wish I knew before I got into embroidery, then stay tuned for future videos and more content like this. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram at JE_Eclectics. At our website, you can reach out to us, www.jeeclectics.com, right here on YouTube. And don't forget about that Cameo 4 giveaway. Check that video out in the description below. See you in the next one.